Is Apple failing? The company made a massive $416 billion in 2025. Yet cracks are starting to show. Investors are worried, users are complaining, and rivals are catching up fast. Let's break it all down step by step in simple terms. Let's start with the facts. Apple isn't going broke or anywhere near that. In 2025, it made more than $416 billion in revenue. That's not what a failing company looks like. In fact, Apple made record profits in the last few quarters. Services like iCloud, Apple Music, and the App Store are bringing in more money than ever before. But even with those massive numbers, something feels off, because money isn't everything. Behind the financial success, Apple is dealing with serious challenges that are starting to worry both investors and fans. These issues are what people mean when they say Apple is failing. So let's go through the biggest ones one by one. For years, Apple's App Store has been a money-making machine. Every time someone buys an app, pays for a subscription, or makes an in-app purchase, Apple takes a cut, sometimes 15%, sometimes 30%. But now, that system is under heavy fire from regulators and developers. Remember the long legal fight between Apple and Epic Games, the makers of Fortnite? Apple lost a major part of that battle. A US judge ruled that Apple was breaking rules by blocking other payment options. In simple words, Apple can't keep full control over its app payments anymore. This change is massive. Developers can now tell users to pay directly on their own websites, skipping Apple's commission. That's bad news for Apple's services revenue, which earns billions every quarter. The judge even called Apple deliberately anti-competitive. It's not the end of the world, but it's definitely a warning shot for the company. Let's be real. When was the last time Siri actually impressed anyone? While companies like Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI are racing ahead with powerful AI tools, Apple seems to be stuck in slow motion. The company announced Apple Intelligence, but most of it has been delayed again and again. Some features were supposed to launch with the iPhone 16, but now most won't arrive until 2026 or even 2027. Meanwhile, users around the world are already using ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot daily. That raises a big question. Can Apple really afford to move this slow in such a fast-changing field? Reports suggest poor leadership and strict privacy rules have slowed progress. Even the AI tools that did launch, like text summaries and smart replies, got mixed reviews. Some were buggy, others just useless. Apple, once known for leading innovation, now feels like it's playing catch-up. Another big headache for Apple is tariffs and manufacturing. For years, Apple built most of its devices in China, but trade wars and political tensions pushed the company to move production to India and Vietnam to reduce risks. That plan sounded great until new tariffs hit. In mid-2025, a 25% tariff on Indian exports was announced. That made shipping iPhones from India to the US much more expensive. And to make things worse, similar tariffs hit Vietnam and Thailand, the same countries Apple was counting on for cheaper production. The impact was quick. Apple's stock dropped nearly 9%, wiping out billions in market value. Moving factories isn't easy. It takes years and billions of dollars. So now Apple faces a tough choice. Stay in China and risk more political pressure, or move out and pay more. Let's talk about iPhones. They still sell like crazy in places like the US and Europe, but in China, sales have clearly slowed down. There are two big reasons behind it. People are keeping their phones longer, and local competitors like Huawei and Xiaomi are offering cheaper phones with great features. Think about it. Is the iPhone 17 really that much better than the iPhone 15 for most users? Many people don't think so. That's why instead of upgrading every 2 years, they're holding on to their older models for longer periods. This slowdown means fewer iPhone sales every year. Apple desperately needs a new product that excites the public the same way the original iPhone did. But so far, nothing has managed to create that kind of buzz. When Apple launched the Vision Pro headset, it looked like something out of a science fiction movie. Everyone was curious until they saw the $3,000 plus price tag. Most people simply said, no thanks. The Vision Pro is an amazing technology, but far from mass market. It's too expensive, bulky, and lacks must-have apps, making it feel like a niche experiment. Apple hoped it would spark a new era, but right now, it's more of a luxury gadget few can afford. Meanwhile, global regulators in the US, Europe, and India are pressuring Apple for being too closed. The EU forced Apple to allow third-party app stores and USB-C charging, weakening its ecosystem control. Now, Apple must balance compliance and control without losing what makes it unique. Here's the twist. Despite all these problems, Apple is still making record money. The company earns billions in profit every quarter, has unmatched customer loyalty, and runs one of the most successful ecosystems in history. So, no, Apple isn't failing financially, but it's facing real challenges for the first time in a long time. The competition is tougher, innovation feels slower, and the wow factor that Apple once had seems to be fading a little. Still, history has shown that Apple often arrives late and wins anyway. The iPod, iPhone, and Apple Watch weren't the first of their kind, yet all became market leaders. Maybe Apple's waiting for the perfect moment to strike with AI. Or maybe this time, it's really falling behind. Despite the noise, Apple has plenty of strengths. The company has over 2 billion active devices in use around the world. Its customer satisfaction scores are the highest among all tech brands. Even if App Store rules change, Apple's services still generate huge profits, backed by massive cash reserves to weather any storm or fund innovation. Its unmatched brand loyalty keeps users from switching, giving Apple time to adapt. But the real question isn't about failure. It's about whether Apple can still lead. In today's fast-changing, AI-driven tech world, rivals are catching up faster than ever. Younger consumers don't worship brands like before. They care about value, performance, and innovation. So Apple's next few years will be crucial. Can it prove it's still the industry leader in ideas, not just in design and marketing? Because if it doesn't, Apple might slowly turn from a bold innovator into just another big, safe company living on old success. And that's the truth Apple doesn't want anyone to focus on. Not that it's broke or dying, but that it might be losing its spark. So, is Apple failing? The answer is no, but it's definitely struggling to stay the tech world's #1 star. Legal fights, AI delays, tariffs, and slower sales aren't small issues. Yet Apple remains a powerhouse backed by billions in profit and unmatched loyalty. The real question now, can Apple find its next big thing before the world moves on? Can it reinvent itself once again, like it did with the iPhone years ago? Because even the world's biggest fruit can start to rot if it stops growing. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.